Hey guys, welcome back to Orchids. Thanks for checking in. Today we'll look at all of our collection now that it's spring and yeah, things are blooming. Thankfully, finally we're getting some blooms again after cold, dark winter. So for some context, if you're new to our channel, we live in West Central Germany, the boss and I. And yeah, we're primarily windowsill growers, so we do have a couple light cabinets. We'll look at those here in a minute. Yeah, for the most part, our Phalaenopsis we grow just in a windowsill. This is like a north-northeast facing window. And at our latitudes now, it's getting to be sunny. Not sunny, but like the sky's bright at like 5:30 already. So yeah, it gets dark in the evenings, going on like 8:30 now. If you didn't see the water culture update, the Schilleriana, Phalaenopsis schilleriana, bloom spike still developing. So that's great. We're really happy to see it come back to life, and hopefully it blooms better this year than last year. That would be awesome. Seedlings, yeah, still doing okay. The manii, well, one of the manii. And that's a Gigantea exoga white, one of our hybrids that we deflast. We're trying, we have 3 of them left, and one of them we're trying in water culture. The Ambinosa, Phalaenopsis ambinosa, one of our favorite hybrids. Really cool fragrance on this guy. I like it. I think it's a bit off-putting for some people, but it's, yeah, I really like it. Really cool fragrance. And beautiful flowers, like brownish, kind of like with a green flush in the back, perfectly white column and ovary. So really cool flowers. And one of the no IDs that the boss picked up, still in bloom after many months. It's a little mini phal. And then the other manii in water culture, hanging on. Oh yeah, we did set the tent up. I'll tell you why here in a minute. We've got the tent up in the backyard. Actually, a comment was made on the Orchid board just recently about asking about black Phalaenopsis. And while this isn't a black Phalaenopsis per se, it's one of the darker colored phals and solid dark with a really nice white column. Now, when it's backlit like this, it definitely shows its purple-red coloration. Like, most orchids, there aren't any truly black orchids, right? Or many flowers. Anyway, this one is pretty close. Like at night, when the room lights are on, it definitely looks really dark in the window. And it's technically a Dorydenopsis, so it's an intergeneric hybrid between phals and Dorydes, between a Phalaenopsis and a Dorydes, so a Dorydenopsis black beauty. So there you go. Yeah. This plant came from Orchid in Wickmann here in Germany, and really great nursery. So this is a recent plant to our collection here, and very happy to have it. So it should be able to make good crosses with some phals. So we'll see how that goes. My bamboo here was struggling, so I did just do a big flush of the bamboo and kind of cleaned out the media. It was really gross and stinky, and so that took quite a bit of work. It's been in this glass jar in hydroponics for, oh man, like now 4.5 years. And then going around to the main orchid room in the house, again, this is like a northeast facing window. And so we do get some direct morning light coming in on the plants for maybe an hour or so in the morning it comes in. So we're not quite there yet. It's almost sun up. You can see it there. Yeah, up here on the shelf we have a couple Phalaenopsis in semi-hydroponics. Those are always an experiment, although it seems like we're getting better at figuring that out. And then most of our maxillarias right now we're growing up here. There's the Schunkiana, the 2 divisions that we split that plant up, and then the Variabilis up there. Finally, the Variabilis has dropped all of its its buds. Fuscata, Phalaenopsis fuscata, we don't have much luck with this species. I don't know, we've owned 3 of them, and none, like basically one died outright, and yeah, this one and another one are doing okay. The other one is at our school, and our students are taking care of it, and it's doing all right. It's just not super duper happy. Spicerianum, that's a paphiopedilum. Well, these are both paphiopedilums, but the Spicerianum, yeah, it does okay for us. I mean, we have it. I'm trying to just put it in super highlight. It's yeah, and warmth. I don't know. I can't get it to bloom. You can see that little red point growing out there. I thought that was the start of maybe a sheath, or like, you know, start of a low bud, but it's been like that for over a year and it's never done anything. So I think it's just stalled, and maybe it'll bloom on one of these newer growths. Hopefully, we'll see. Yeah, so just repotted this guy. Show you this one. This is the Hennessianum. Yeah, we've done a video on this close up, and it's got 2 new growths. It is kind of growing slowly. I'm not even really happy with the bloom on that one, so maybe this is one that hopefully we can get it to rebloom again sometime in the next 10 years. I don't know, we'll see. And if it's still not good, then we'll give it away. It's on the chopping block, so to speak. Moving down in this cabinet, this is the Vinicolor, Maudii Vinicolor, Schwarz Madonna. Really good grower. Yeah, and I think it's gonna maybe bloom. We'll see. I don't know if you can see that, but that's just a new leaf, but it could be the start of like the little sheath leaf that comes out, the little mini leaf. So we'll see. Hopefully we can get that guy to rebloom. Moving down to a couple of the seedlings and small plants. This is the Sumatrana. So kind of a quick shout out to Stephen Van Kempen Lewis, because he showed his Sumatrana and, you know, talked about some of his difficulties with it, and I guess now his mite outbreak. Yeah, and ours we got as a kind of a sick and struggling plant due to some water issues. Actually, this plant was from Dimitri, so this is one of his plants that we got from him. Maybe you can see is okay. Here it goes. It's okay. We finally have some roots that are growing down below and starting to branch and produce root tips, right? So finally, I think we're on the road to recovery with that guy. And the leaf, new leaf, while it's a bit smaller, I think that's as big as that leaf will get, because it's kind of been that way for a while. So I don't know. No sign of a new leaf coming from the center just yet. Maybe this one's still growing. It's just a slow grower, and I'm not sure if it should be like that or what. Anyway, it is what it is. It ain't dead, so I'm happy about it. And so this is the Ganlin Diamond. We just separated these from a compot, and there's actually like 4 growing starts there. And it's 2 plants, so these guys have just both kind of produced basil kikis immediately, I guess you could call them. I don't know. There's 2 growths, so it's like not monopodial like it should be. Anyway, that's cool. So I like that trait about these 2. We'll keep them together for a while now. They're doing good. They've recovered well from the repot. And one of our leftover seedlings from a deflasking we did of paphiopedilums, it's Emerald Zenhaida. Yeah, emerald crossed with Zenhaida. It's growing really slowly. I don't know. Good positive update. So this is the cutting that we took, or the division, back bulb division that we took of the Fred Clarkiara SVO Black Pearl. This guy finally is coming back. We did have it outside with the rest. We'll show the rest of our Catasetums here, or Catasetum types, here in a minute. However, this one we had outside, and After a day in the sun, it was looking yellow, so I got all nervous and brought it back inside, and I'm like, okay, I need to do more like slower hardening off of this little young shoot. Now, clearly we are not watering this yet. The roots, you can, like, I can just barely see through like the media that there's some root growth happening, which is great. But it's gonna be quite a while before I feel comfortable watering this. We'll see. A couple fresh repots into semi-hydroponics. This plant also was from Vikman. We just showed we talked about this plant. We didn't show the potting up, but Barbagerum. All right, so then down here we have a couple more paphiopedilums growing. They're a little bit cooler down by the floor, and they're a little closer to the light because this shelf is skinnier, right, than the upper shelf. And this one, I believe, should be blooming. This is an Escarolii alba. And I think it is just gonna start from this more mature one. I can kind of see it's starting to spread open a little bit, and so I think maybe this one is on its way to bloom in the next 6 months, maybe. Hopefully, that would be cool. In other exciting news, pull it out here. This is the Phalaenopsis japonica. It's often called Sideria japonica, but I guess technically no, it's been reclassified. Obviously, it came from Kramer, but we did notice yesterday it's finally reblooming. It's been a real struggle with this plant, just trying to get the roots to grow, and they still are reluctant to grow down into the media, so it just becomes an aerial root monster, and then it struggles. But finally we've got it repotted, and I think it's more or less happy now, and yes, finally starting to grow a spike, so that's awesome to see. A positive sign after like 2 years of struggling with this plant. First year we owned it, it was great, and like everything, it's like it looks great when you get it, and then slowly but surely it never looks as good again. That's how we grow here. And this one, the Borneensis, Phalaenopsis borneensis, is a transplant from water culture. So it was in water culture for, 4 to 6 months. And then we've transitioned it now back into our regular media. And yes, just to kind of, I'm very happy about water culture as far as the ease of going back on the roots, right? They don't have a big shock. And so you can see like we've got lots of growing root tips all over. Finally, again, on this plant, it was the same deal, like in its bark, the past pot, before the water culture, it just, all the roots started dying off. We took it out. Once we put it into water culture, it just kind of stabilized and it didn't lose any more roots, which was great. And then now the nice thing is, whatever roots it saved seem to live and kind of do well when we put it back into the media. So this is kind of the deal with our water culture experiment. And so far, I'm really happy with those results on saving roots. Basically, when you see they're on their way out, it's like, throw it into water culture. It seems like, I don't know, it just seems like a nice way to keep them alive. You got to be proactive though, because if the roots die, well, then, water culture ain't saving dead roots. Like that's, Couple paphiopedilums now down here on the floor. The Lowii looking great, although I don't know if it's going to bloom. Yeah, from the oldest. It's still growing in the oldest fan, the first fan. We've had this plant since it was a seedling. I've kind of told the story before, but this is the whole reason why we grow in semi-hydroponics, because of this plant. Why we grow our paphiopedilums anyway. And then this is an amidum. It has a name. It's a paphiopedilum amidum. That's a hybrid. I don't know, dark angel crossed with like white wings, I think it is the cross. But this plant we also got as a young plant. So hopefully it will bloom one day soon. It's starting to put on a new fan down at the base. So the cuttings we took from the Maxillaria variabilis, these guys are still holding on to the flowers, although they're like dried out. They're like preserved at this point now on that plant. So at the top of the second shelf, yeah, we're growing this little bifoliate no ID Cattleya. This is the orange one. These flowers are also like freeze dried on here. They're way done, but I love that about this particular hybrid because, you know, not all plants die as gracefully, and this one does. So you can see I'm trying an experiment with the fan. It's on there on purpose to see if I can create more movement from down below. Anyway, and another path. This is, show you this one. Here's the remainder of the Venustum albums that we had. We had 2 of these, and I gave one away to a friend of ours. He's like our orchid growing, but we're trying to get him addicted to orchids and away from other houseplants. Then down to kind of a seedling shelf. This is where we kind of grow a lot of our seedlings, young Phalaenopsis. One of the smallest ones, this is a Gigantea alba. It was an import through like I guess Orchibias, Orchids for Europe, that he did an order, and Dimitri, Mr. Fake Name, he bought some plants. We overwintered them from him. That was kind of like our payment for overwintering his plants, as we got one of those. Finally starting to grow a new leaf. Cool. And our 2 Mariais, this one was recently repotted, as was the other Marii here. Both were recently repotted and looking okay. Hopefully they'll bloom sometime in the future. This was also a Dimitri plant, came to us and has now, again, finally recovered. These species, they're struggling. It seems like they take forever to recover. You know, these hybrids, they just bounce right back. But man, these guys can be tricky, you know, especially with us and our cold winters. And then speaking of hybrid vigor, so this was one of our first plants that we deflasked like 3 years ago. But we have some random plants of this left, I think 2 or 3 left or so from that flask, little mini flask. It's Chiata Francis Picati crossed with Lulin Hotlip. And we're so excited about this plant because it's our first seedling that has started to produce a spike. And so I'm not saying that it's gonna bloom. I mean, we never know. It could absolutely abort this spike. But I'm just happy that at least one of the seedlings finally, after 3 years of waiting for seedlings, one of them may bloom. And that's fantastic. So we're really happy about that. It's kind of like a small milestone, you know, to bloom a deflasked plant. So we're happy so far. Now, hopefully it'll keep going. We'll see. I have no idea what this plant will look like. That's kind of like the fun for me of growing these random hybrids from flasks, because you never know. And the 2 plants or 3 plants that we have of it could all be different, you know, in the end, which is pretty cool, I think. And then going back up to the shelf again, I'll put that plant back later. Here's the Falpalens, again, transplant from water culture back into our media. And we showed the roots in this guy last week, and you can see they're still growing along, and thankfully it looks like it's gonna take better to this planting. I think this was one of our plants that we tried growing in moss, and that was an absolute failure, as we've failed every time we've tried that method. Anyways, another one of our Deflasking seedlings, Tying Shin Phoenix, crossed with Brother Pikachu's Sweetheart. That's this cross. So we have, yeah, 3 or 4 of these guys left. This was also 3 years out of Flask. No sign of a spike just yet, but it looks pretty good. It's got really nice root growth, right? That's what you want to see. I mean, all the roots should look still nice and green, and then by next Saturday, they should look whitish, hopefully. Of course, I stopped for a second because I had to download the file, and then the lights came on. So now the lights are on in the cabinet. The Carmela's Maynaui crossed with Telbird. That's this cross down here. You can tell really easily by this purple edging to the leaves and the purple midvein. They look really cool. Especially when they're in like this higher light under these grow lights. Now these are not really intense lights, but it provides enough extra light that, yeah, it really gives them this purple tinge, which is cool. Yeah, one of the Phalmanii here, this guy, show him. So yeah, these manii really struggle in our coldish winters. We've been watering them too much through those cold times. Like, I think we should have been cutting back, and this winter we did cut back. We tried to water every other week, but you know, it just hurts me, and I get all itchy. I'm like, oh god, so it's gonna die. And then I sometimes would give them a little splash of water, but yeah, I think they don't like it that cold. But thankfully, some of them are hanging on. We've kind of whittled it down to a couple stronger ones. This guy's doing pretty good. The other one in waterculture, and then one is really struggling. That was the one from the school we showed earlier. Anyways, they're still hanging in there. So then at the bottom shelf here now, the other Gigantea Exogo White, the one with the crazy roots, that guy, yeah, it's the biggest one, and it's doing okay, although it is more eager to put out aerial roots, as you can see, than it is to put down roots in the media. The roots don't seem to like it in our media, and again, maybe it's just for that one too cold with our winters, and I don't know. The roots don't like it being that wet. Meanwhile, one of these hybrids, this is again a Deflasking seedling. You can tell the Carmela's Maynaui crossed with Telbird. This super purple leaf. That thing is so cool. That one also not flowering yet, no sign of blooming, but the strongest, most vigorous root growth of any of our Deflasking seedlings. So I'll just show you real quick. It looks great under there. So yeah, this is what you want to see, right? So I mean, that's pretty good root growth. That's 3 years. We've repotted this plant twice is all. So it was in a very small pot, and then we finally potted it up this spring into a bigger pot, and much happier with it, and it's doing really good. Another one of our Deflasking seedlings. This is an Equestris cross, Upin Easter Island, crossed with Equestris, deflasked about 3 years ago, along with the other ones. Yeah, so the 3-year plants, you know, they're doing well. They're just, yeah, they're finally starting to look like mature phals, but they're just not all of them are blooming yet. A different cross, but that same Deflasking, Aloha, crossed with Ancho Chili. And the only one of this that we have left, that's the only one that made it through. And another one of our manii that is actually starting to grow a spike, but now that spike has kind of stalled. It's not really doing anything, so I don't think that we're going to get any of them to flower this year, but could surprise us. I don't know. We'll see. Cattleya that we repotted recently, we took it outside and it got these red spots. I think, again, we probably tried to put it in too much light too fast, so it freaked out, and I was really hoping that I'd get this. This is the Golf Green Hair Pig. I was hoping that we could get this to bloom this year, but I don't know. It's not putting on a sheath yet from this newest leaf, this purple spotted one. And we'll see. And here we have a plant in recovery. This is the Tetraspis green. one of our Tetraspis greens. This plant, again, it was grown in moss when it came to us from the nursery with the moss experiment. It was one of those plants. I left it in the moss, and basically by the time I realized that the roots were all dying, they were all dead. And so, yeah, we had like one or two little growing root tips. Thankfully, one of them has continued to grow, and it has grown down, so it's been able to, see if we can find it. It is in here somewhere, but this is way too big a pod, but it was staying too moist, and then it still is. And I don't know, I think this one's on its way out, but I'm not going to give up. It's still growing a new leaf, so I'm hoping sometime this summer, soon here, it may do another root growth event, and hopefully we can get more roots for that plant, which would be great. A couple more seedlings under here. Yeah, these are all just, again, from deflaskings over the last couple of years. Several hybrids. The Jennifer Palermo, finally, starting to rebloom now. This is the second set of flowers. Well, it had one flower the first time it bloomed on this old spike to the right. That did produce one flower last, well, I guess it was in bloom actually when we moved here, so around early December, and it faded once we moved. So now it's reblooming here again, I guess 6 months later, so it's putting on more flowers this time. We'll see if it blooms out. It's all purple. It's like a solid purple flower, and yeah, we've had that plant since it was a young little non-blooming sized plant, right, with the little small leaves. So we're happy. This one is a really pretty vigorous grower. The roots, they don't look the best, but that's just how these roots look on this plant. So I don't know, that's just the way they are, right? They're not these nice lush plump green like you see on some, like this one. Also a recovery plant from Dimitri Stewartiana. Right, so the Fel Stewartiana, while it is losing a leaf, we had to put it in kind of emergency root recovery mode, repotted it, and thankfully it is coming back. It's kind of tough to see, but down there's two roots growing from the base of the plant that have now grown down into the media, and they're kind of starting to poke out. I'm not going to lift that out. But thankfully the roots are coming back and looking really healthy. And so I think, again, this plant is kind of on the road to recovery, which would be great. Hopefully it'll flower sometime, maybe in the future. We'll see. And the Gertrixianum just growing along. That's paphiopedilum Gertrixianum back here. Yeah, right up against the window. Just seems to be happy. I don't know when it's going to bloom again. I think it was Mary G from Mary G Orchid. She's got a YouTube channel. She commented, I think it was her, that said this is a Phalaenopsis bulgari. It was just sold to us as a no ID, but then when I looked up the bulgari, it does certainly look like this plant, and that plant is supposed to be fragrant, which this one also is. So while I'm hesitant to, give it an ID, because it's technically a no ID, and I think this Bulgari is just kind of like a trade name, I'm not sure. That's just kind of what it's sold as. But it is fragrant. It has a nice kind of just simple, like floral fragrance, kind of sweet. But it's not very strong or overpowering, and it seems like in early morning is when I notice it most, actually. Not later during the day. I don't know. It's just kind of, I'm not good with scents, but yeah, it is actually putting on more buds. It opened up all the ones it had when it came to us, and now it's putting on more buds. Paphiopedilums in semi-hydroponics. This is the Delanatii. Now, I guess I could comment on the Delanatii real quick, because I'm not sure that semi-hydroponics is the best way to grow the Delanatii. Contrary to my, belief in semi-hydro for paphiopedilums, I just think this one maybe needs to stay a little bit more dry during the winter especially, and I don't know, it just maybe warmer. I'm not sure. It doesn't like our conditions, and we had two Delanatii. The other one died. This one has survived. It did not, it blasted its bud, so it was going to flower, but then it blasted. And then this older growth, all of a sudden the bottom leaf turned brown. Thankfully, the new leaf on it is still growing. But that one, I don't know. Delenatii, we just have to figure out. Like all the rest of the species paths that we grow, we pretty much grow easily. I don't know. In semi-hydro, we just don't really have much of a problem growing them. And most of them seem to flower pretty readily. But Delenatii, one of the ones we got to figure out. Another kind of one that we probably should be keeping a little bit more dry in the winter. So here's the story on this plant. So now I've turned it around so you can actually see it. This is a paphiopedilum parishii. It was, let's say, a very mature plant when we bought it. This was one of our more expensive plants that we've bought. And it promises to be a pretty amazing bloomer. So if you want to look it up, there's the tag. You can check it out. Valparicii or Paph parishii. It's one of these, if you aren't familiar with the multifloral paths, a lot of them or some of them have these really long dangly petals that twirl and twist down and hang and look really cool. And so we were attracted to that when we first started buying orchids and got into the paths. Hopefully blooms true to that. Now it is getting a lot of buds, puts out several flowers. So these are multifloral paphiopedilums, which means many flowers, right? Instead of a monofloral paph. Hopefully we get a lot. We'll see. Hopefully they all bloom. We've already got the stake ready to go to put that spike onto. But the deal with this plant, so I repotted it horribly into semi-hydroponics the first time because the root system it had when it came to us was totally amazing. It was huge and awesome, and this plant was great. It hadn't any signs of blooms in the past, but it was really healthy. I put it into semi-hydro and didn't get it set right, and the roots at the top were exposed and were like basically dying off. And then we kind of figured out, and we were reading deeper, and seems like these probably should be kept a bit more dry during the winter and not kept constantly moist like the rest of the paths, or that like the general kind of idea about paphiopedilums. And we weren't doing that. And so finally it was looking not good, and it was kind of looking unhealthy. I wasn't sure what was going on. I unpotted it. I should have filmed it because like over half of the roots had died and it was all mushy and rotten in the center. It looked horrible. It smelled horrible. Yeah, it was not good. So we chopped all the dead roots off, and it had a small root ball. We just put it right back into the same pot because I figured, well, it's a higher pot. The reservoir is down further, so in theory the new roots should have less water, right? They're not right down in the water reservoir. So it should, on the average, stay a little bit drier where the roots are. I mean, I don't know if that's true. Anyways, we probably will next winter, probably will not water this like we water the rest. So we'll probably just do it every other week. We'll give it a flush, and that's about it. Maybe drain the reservoir, I'm not sure. We'll experiment, but for right now, after the repot, it's come back and looking really good. Super happy about this guy. We'll keep you posted on when it's going to bloom and what it looks like as it goes along. Hopefully the stake is not too tall. I mean, we'll see, because I thought that the stake on the other, so this guy, the other multifloral path we have blooming right now, at the start, this is the Paphiopedilum limianum, and this guy, yeah, it should put on 2 to 3 more buds and flowers. We'll see. Hopefully it keeps going. We did try pollinating this top first flower. I'm not sure if anything's happening there. Pollination doesn't look too successful. Nothing's changed with the flower, which it probably should have at least faded a bit more by now, even though they'll hang on. It's harder to tell, I think, at least for us so far, what we've seen, it's harder to tell in paphiopedilums compared to Phalaenopsis. Let's say when you pollinate them, it's fairly easy to tell if it's failed or successful. With these, it seems like you got to wait more. The flowers don't like fall off. So we'll see. Yeah, and it's still blooming. It just keeps going, which, yeah, hopefully it blooms all of them out. That'll be really pretty, I think, when it goes. These we did also try pollinating. If you didn't see our pollination video, this we did a reciprocal cross. So took pollen from each and traded it. And I think, I mean, this to me looks like more success, or chances are higher, I think, for this. The ovary has swollen like right at the top where it connects to the flower. And it's looking really nice, the flower. Like you can see, it's fading, which is kind of what we've seen on the couple successful cross-pollinations we've done with paphiopedilums. So we're still new at it, and yeah, to me, I think that's a good sign to see that on these flowers. I mean, this one is swelling a bit. You can see the ovary is starting to swell just a bit, and yeah, that flower's browning off. So pretty happy to see that, actually. Got some kind of feedback on Slipper Talk that, yeah, you can do it without cutting the lip off, the pouch. We did a stake, right? If you saw our how not to stake video, how not to stake orchids, we did end up staking the foul little sister. That's this plant, really, really nice, hardy, vigorous grower. Of course, you can't see it now. There we go. So now you can see it's got like, yeah, 4 or 5 flowers so far it's putting on, and a little spike growing off, a little sub-branching spike, and then the new spike down here putting on a couple flowers. So should be nice this year. The keiki hanging out now by the window because I'm gonna knock it over. Yeah, this is dangerous. The keiki. You can see the roots growing and a little new leaf coming on, so that's looking good. Yeah, be another year or 2 before we separate that. And then right there next to it is the Leptodes bicolor. And we did try, well, we took the pollen and self-pollinated all 3 flowers on this. We're going to try a little experiment. I don't know, we probably won't eat them, but I'm curious to see how it goes. Like, I think there's a fermenting process that has to be done for these seed capsules to like use them as kind of a vanilla substitute. But no, definitely don't recommend, you know, eating any plants, and do not do that. You know, advisement, warning, don't eat your plants. Anyway, then, all right, up on the top shelf now is the Gigantea, the new leaf. I don't know, I'm not so happy. I think after its repot, it's being a bit sluggish. Hopefully we didn't do any permanent damage, and it's just telling us it's unhappy. I think we need to give it more ventilation, so it's up higher where it's a bit warmer, and yeah, in theory, it does get a couple, maybe an hour of direct morning sun. Like you can see now, the sun's coming up and shining in. And so it'll get this sun for the first hour, but it's still pretty chilly. And yeah, we can open up the window, right? So we can vent the window, and when we do that, it gets a nice breeze through here. So I'll leave that open for now. The no IDs on the foul wall are looking really good. This is the Boss's Pink no ID, blooms every year for us. It's so reliable, gotta love them. And yeah, putting on even more. The little branch is still continuing to grow more buds, which is great. And then Paprika, as we call her, also a no ID. I love how it just puts on these ranks, like this wall of flowers. The thing is, I love this plant. I wish it was fragrant, but it is not fragrant. Slowly, one after another, they're opening up. Just, I love this. Every year it does this. It did skip a year, but gotta appreciate the no IDs. They're fantastic plants. Yeah, and you can see how red. I mean, I love this about it. Like even more red. This one opened up a day or so ago, and it was even more red when it first opens up. And then, you know, as they get on here and they stay, right, they kind of fade to a nice, it's not a big fade like some orchids will show a huge color change, but it's a nice, pleasant one, right? It kind of, and I don't know, it just, I really like it. It gives this nice color gradation to the spike. Yeah, pretty awesome. No IDs, gotta love them. And yeah, we recently repotted this, the Cerveranum, paphiopedilum cerveranum, repotted that into semi-hydro recently. And it, yeah, like all of them, seems to do really well and taken right to it, growing a new leaf. Super happy about that. Probably going to be a while though before it blooms, I would imagine. And this is a paphiopedilum colossum that is also on the chopping block of plants that I'm kind of like, I can get rid of it. This plant, yeah, it has like these petals that don't display the typical petal arrangement and the nice downward cupping look that a lot of the colossums have. And so we're going to try blooming it again. Hopefully on subsequent blooms it gets better. It grows really vigorously. It's got a couple, 2, 3 new growths that maybe 1 or 2 should come into flower at the same time, hopefully, which would be awesome. So hopefully as it matures it gets better, but if it doesn't, it's going to somebody else. And the Yang Yang supermodel is coming back to life now, starting to show a little bit of signs of some growth happening at the tips of the spikes. So yeah, keep those spikes on a lot of these hybrids, right? They keep growing. So there's the other spike down there, also starting to come back to life. The hieroglyphica, nothing happening quite yet on the hieroglyphica. So it's just chugging along. It is growing a new leaf, which I'm happy about, but no signs of new flowers just yet. I mean, there's kind of a little, probably should cut this spike back to this little growing point right back there. And that looks promising, but I don't know. Maybe I should cut it since it's got this weird angle anyway. Wouldn't be hurting it any, I don't think. Yeah, it did concern me. It was kind of getting this like yellowness you can see on the leaves back there. But anyway, so just we've been leaving it. I did repot it this past winter to again encourage some of these aerial roots to grow down in, which some of them have, as you can see. So thankfully that one is also on the road to recovery, and I hope we can get it some nutrients that it needs, maybe give it a CalMag or something, but that doesn't look like a calcium deficiency, I don't think. Anyway, I got to figure that one out. I don't really mess too much with them though, honestly. Paphiopedilum, this is a cross between Venustum and Parishii, and it did not, Venustum and Philippinense. That's what it is, Philippinense and Venustum. But it blasted its first bud. It tried to grow that flower you can see on the old stalk on the right, and that blasted. But now the new growth has come on really vigorously, and hopefully it'll bloom again soon and try again. We'll see. I really am excited to see what that flower looks like. Should be a promising, it looks to be a promising cross. We'll see. Project Fal YouTube. The first is the Jermaine Vincent, which also is starting to grow on this spike there. It's starting to put on a new flower. Only one of the spikes, that one, is really looking like it's coming back to life. The rest of them, I mean, the seed pod is looking okay. It's not great. Still not, you know, and this little one, again, if you've seen other looks at this as it's been growing, this seed pod is definitely toasted. Maybe something is happening in that other one. Yeah, this light is crazy bright in the morning, right? But then down in the shade is the other Tetraspis green. Now, this one, right, so this Tetraspis green, I mean, the story on this plant and why the other sibling of it, we got both of those at the same time, and you can clearly see the difference when you repot a plant grown in sphagnum moss, at least for us, because we can actually grow them in regular bark and leca media. That's what we grow them in. And this one we repotted immediately when we got it, and it did much, much better. The other one obviously lost all of its roots. So it goes. So the seed pod on this is still looking pretty good. This one looks much better. It's a lot greener still. And I'll lift up that leaf. There you go. So yeah, seed pod on this one looking much greener and still plumpy and nice. And so maybe gonna cut that one sometime soon. We'll see how it goes. They've been several months now for Project Value Tube. And now we'll just kind of step outside. Ooh, I should get my slippers on. Past the trash can and all of the succulents that we now have out here. The first orchid that we have now growing outside, this is the RLC Chilean Red Sun is this one. Maybe you saw the video we did on this, and yeah, I'm not super happy with the bloom, so it's kind of a test plant, and this plant we've just been leaving outside in the super cold and wet rain. We haven't been doing anything. When it's sunny, it's over here, it kind of gets morning sun, and then done by like noon, no more sun. And so we've really been abusing this plant, and you know, the 3 old pseudobulbs now are really looking crispy and kind of gross. And then the 3 newer ones are still hanging on. I mean, this one is starting to turn yellow, and so is that one. So I think we've really done this plant enough abuse that maybe we've basically killed it. I mean, the roots don't look great. There's no new growing root tips down there. Like, it's not, you know, I mean, so you can see it's just not looking the best. Probably needs to be watered. But yeah, we've just been kind of abusing this plant, leaving it outside and seeing what nature will do to it. And not the best approach, but I don't care about it because I don't really like the flower. And it's good to push some to the limits when you're like, whatever. Ooh, strawberries while we're out here. Take a quick look, quick side non-orchid content detour. So we've got some strawberries almost on the ripe. Yeah, cool. Gonna be good eating here soon. We got several coming on, and I gotta talk quiet. It's early on a Sunday morning. We're growing the orchids now out here on this table, so they're easy to see. And you know, public service announcement, the reason that we pulled the table out and doing it this way is that I see them and remember them if it's going to rain, and it's easy to bring them in and out because the deal is that this guy, which is one of our newest plants, also from Vickman that we got, like we got it at the same time as the Dorydenopsis, Maxillaria marginata. There it is, right? So, it's supposed to be a bigger flowered Maxillaria, and we love the Maxillarias so much. We want to try to experiment with some more of them. Of course, I can't get the tag back in. I need to get that tag. There it goes. Yeah, so very large pseudobulbs, nice healthy plant. But this plant we've been taking outside, and we put it up on the table where we can't really see it, along with another Maxillaria that we got from Vickman just recently. Here's the second Maxillaria from that group that we got. This is a Picta. I'll show that one, Maxillaria Picta. Yeah, so obviously a much smaller division, you know, much younger plant. However, I mean, that doesn't bother me for Maxillarias. It's a super healthy plant. It was obviously cheaper, bit cheaper, I think, than the marginata. But this guy, both of these plants we had on the table, and it gets really cold still at night, or was. This was 2 weeks ago. It got down to about 8 degrees, and it was pouring rain, and I forgot about them and left them out for almost 2 more days in the pouring rain and cold, maximum like 12 degrees or so. And then when I saw them and remembered that they were out there, of course, after saying some choice words to myself, I pulled them out of their pots. I mean, they were completely full of water. This was up to water, like fully up to the rim of the pot in water, and so I'm sure it had been like that for a couple days. But honestly, they don't seem to have fared too poorly after all that abuse. I mean, there's, you know, this guy has turned a bit more yellow, but I think that's just because we've been cranking the light on it. So I think, you know, it's just going to naturally yellow up a bit more. Maybe we should not have it out, and so maybe we need to find a new place for it. And also, in that group that we had out on the table, where is it here? Oh, there they are, the tubercidiums, right? So the tubercidiums we also had outside. They were completely waterlogged and freezing cold. Well, here's one of the presidiums. The other one is in the back over here. So I should put them together, I guess. Yeah, so those two plants were totally waterlogged. I mean, not great. You can see their color is starting to kind of look a little bit off, but the new growths are still growing, and that's good. Yeah, you can see new growths growing. They got a bunch of dirt splashed up on them from when it rained. I mean, of course, you know, that's what happens when you grow plants outside, right? But then the Oncidium shari baby growing outdoors as well on the table and looking okay. Also getting a bit more yellowish and bright green leaves, I think, again, because of the increased light from having it grown inside basically for its whole life. You know, this is a new adventure for it. And all of our RLC and Cattleya types were growing out here. This guy, supposedly this intermedia, this can handle a bit more cold temperatures. So yeah, we're not so worried about this one really. We kind of want to harden it off and see how low it will go. But supposedly it'll do good, okay, in cold temperatures. Right, so this is primarily the outdoor table, right, for the orchids, so they're easy to see right by the back door. It's just like one step and they're out here. And this Catasetum, oh yeah, not doing so great. The Phrylidoris hybrid, maybe you can see it, there you go. Yeah, this Catasetum is one of the weaker ones this year to come back. The new growth is really not looking healthy. It's just really small, and it's got some signs of like, yeah, it's got some signs of like bug damage or predation or something, and yellowing on the tips, and it's all wrinkled, and this is not looking good. But it's still growing, so I'm gonna just wait. We are not watering this yet, right? So that's why this also, we need to keep an eye on the weather, and if any threat of rain comes, it has to go in. But yeah. So we're leaving all of them outdoors now. Oh, replanted a rose. Not the time to do this, just did it last week, but you know, honestly, I just took it out of a pot and didn't disrupt the roots at all. So I just dug a big hole and then backfilled it with nice compost, and so I did no damage to the roots, and hardly, this thing hasn't skipped a beat. So yeah, it's, I think, a better place for it. Back to the orchid contents. So the deal is last night was the first night that we left the orchids outside in the garden, officially, like all of them out. It only got down to maybe 12 degrees last night, so it was pretty warm, over the 10-degree mark, and so we left all of them outside. So as kind of a celebration to spend the night with the orchids, we camped out. We set the tent up, and yeah, we got the fire pit out and had some leftover wood, a couple pieces, so we had a small little fire and burned some of the sticks that we had laying around from you know, spring, fall, and all that kind of spring, fall, you know, the fall of the sticks in the spring. Anyway, yeah, so now over to the Catasetums. Here's where, you know, we're going to grow the Catasetums this year. These guys are almost ready for their full first watering. They're all looking pretty good. These are the 4 strongest growers out of the 6 Catasetums that we now have. They do get some ants though. This one, especially the Macroglossum, just attracts ants like crazy out here. which I don't like, and that makes it, I don't want to bring them back into the house. Like, we got to treat them differently, because again, we can't let these get wet yet. We haven't really started watering. So what I did do was I put a little bit of water down into the reservoirs of these guys that are in semi-hydroponics. I don't know, I just kind of think that'll like help to kind of simulate. The roots aren't down in there yet, but you can see it's like, it's kind of through the heat of the day, you can see there through the heat of the day, it's like, you know, vaporizing and evaporating and going up in and providing like a super high humidity. So I don't know if essentially the plant thinks it's already been watered, but I plan on probably watering next week. Like, you can start to see a bunch of little growing roots coming out all around. So they're, you know, those longest ones are over the 5-inch mark, and I'm assuming and hoping that there's ones down in the middle. This one, it's kind of put on its second flush of roots already, like the new top growth roots, and then yeah, you can see some starting to poke out over there and down over there. There's one. So yeah, there. I was gonna water next week officially from the top. This one I have no idea. It's hard to see with all the old media, and this is not in a clear pot, so I have no idea how long those roots are. But yeah, the species I think can, yeah, I'll probably water it just with the rest next week. Like, you can see it started its second flush of roots there, kind of. I don't know where I heard that, but it kind of seems like it's a bit true. Like, you get the early roots that really grow long, and then they all kind of seem to put out this now new flush that they started maybe 3 weeks ago with these little top roots, you know, all over. So yeah, they're looking good. Water them again maybe next weekend. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll give them water this week if I feel so inclined or whatever. And yeah, go camp out with your orchids. Oh yeah, planted some sunflowers. Thanks for checking in, guys. Hope you're having a good one, and we will see you back here at El Pilar soon.